everybody, and here we are at the class in focusing in coaching, and I'm really absolutely delighted to be sitting here as a way of beginning this part of the journey. This has been fitting into a larger piece of work we've been developing at the Human Potential Institute, but this particular piece of work is I think something that is exceptionally powerful and an incredible value add for the field of coaching. And I'm not going to speak anymore. I really want to hand over to my colleague and friend, Charlotte Howorth, who I'm absolutely delighted to be partnering with, and handing over for her to really be leading this part of the journey here into discovering, focusing in coaching. And I will come back in if you choose to come and engage with the program, then I will certainly come back in towards the end to really talk more about how we can integrate it into our coaching sessions. Charlotte is someone I met doing some of the focusing training with her probably about a year ago, and she's a rather exceptionally qualified person to be teaching this program. Charlotte comes from a background in cell and molecular biology, and so comes as a scientist who also found her way into working with others as a way of helping to create healing, health, and optimal ways of living. And she's taught the 2-year certification program with the International Focusing Institute for about the last 12 years, and run workshops and retreats, and works as a focusing therapist as well. So we are in exceptionally qualified hands working with Charlotte. I can vouch for that, having done some of my training with Charlotte as well. So with no further ado, I'll hand over to her. Thank you, Charlotte.
Lovely. Thanks, Rod. So hi, everybody, and thank you for sticking with us. As I said, we were worried we were going to lose you. We were in another meeting room. So yes, focusing. I am really excited to be able to introduce you guys to focusing. I came across focusing about 25 years ago when I was doing my psychotherapy training. And actually, even back then, I'd been exposed to various modalities. And the training I was doing at the time also exposed me to various different ways of working therapeutically. And a friend of mine said, there's this amazing thing called focusing. I really want to share it with you and give you a taster. And she invited a teacher over to her apartment and gathered a few friends for the weekend. And it was so profound. It was like, oh, this is what it is. I just kind of had that inherent knowing that this is it, bingo. Actually, of all the things that I've been learning, this is what's at the heart of all the change, whether it's transactional analysis, whether I was already getting a taste of psychoanalysis, whether it's behavioral therapy, whatever modality, this really, I could see how this was actually at the heart of the change of any of those approaches. I then went on to find out that actually it's the heart of any creative process of change. And many people from many different kind of fields use it, not just therapists and coaches. Yes, so I remember a friend of mine, a colleague actually, when I first met her, she was heading up this big hospital department for psychology and had been in therapy for decades. And we joined around our love of focusing. And she said, if I had to go to a desert island and take one modality, focusing would be the one. So it's here it is. And I'm going to be able to give you a bit of a taster of it. Focusing is a wide, exciting, expansive world of practice, theory, and philosophy. But I'm going to be able to give you a taster of it today, of what the kind of essential elements are. So I'll introduce it a bit by sharing some of the research that it came out of. Basically, Dr. Eugene Gendlin, who's the father of focusing, he's a psychotherapist and a philosopher, and has spent his life being fascinated by what brings new thinking. What is the creative process that takes us to the edge of our regular thinking, so that more can come, the new can come, the innovative can come. And so he thought, what better place to look at this than in therapy? If you're going to try and measure change, therapy is a good place to look. So he was involved in a multi-site study involving hundreds of therapists and hundreds of clients, therapists from all different kinds of modalities too. And they, over a year, they basically recorded all the sessions, and they had a number of questionnaires of measuring change, both for the client and the therapist, as well as the significant people in the client's lives. So they kind of collated all this information. And what they found was, they found there were three main ways that clients process their material. Two of them were dead ends, so the clients didn't actually move very much, and one was the way of processing and keeping company with experience that led to deep and the most profound change. So I'm just going to share with you a little graphic I have of these different kinds of process. Here we go. So what they found was, the research team found that clients who just talked about their issues without really feeling or connecting with the experience, it was too abstract, too much distance, they didn't change too much. Clients who cyclically emoted, that means the same sad, the same angry, the same anxiety, over and over, they didn't change. But there were about a third of the clients who very naturally engaged with their experience in this particular kind of way. What they did was, when they were talking about an issue and working on an issue, they would slow down and they would sense into their feeling sense of their experience, and they would symbolize it. So they would find, what are the qualities of what I'm feeling in the moment? And they would use often poetic, unusual language, metaphor, images, maybe even movements, postures would come as they kept their experience company and symbolized it, and more would come. And these were the clients that would change. So another way you could look at it is that these clients were too far away from the soup, so they couldn't smell it. These clients had their face right in the soup, so their noses were getting burnt. And these clients were at just the right distance so that they could keep company with and just smell and savor the soup. So that's what we're aiming for when we're working with ourselves or with others. So it's like a keeping company, it's a making something of what you're experiencing. And as you relate to it in that way, it moves forward. So I'm just going to share another graphic with you. Let's put that one to one side. So what was going on for these people who were going to this kind of subtle, fuzzy, unclear felt sense as they were working? Okay, so further research, and we're taking research from all kinds of different areas that studying the process of change. So we actually live, our regular consciousness is in this tiny tip, our regular thoughts, feelings, sensations, how we see the world. And we mistakenly think that's who we are. But actually, who we really are is this vast implicit, our unconscious, our implicit, which is underneath the surface of our regular consciousness. And the felt sense is this fuzzy zone in between the two. So our regular thinking, conscious thinking, is the world of that is past, present, future, cause and effect. It's logical. And we can only have a few bits of information at a time. I can't remember actually, I think it's about 8. Rod, you might be able to correct me on this, but it's not very many pieces of information you can handle at one time. And that's been important for our evolution. Yeah, we have to have this narrow band that's pretty clear when we're looking for mates, avoiding predators, looking for shelter. We need that to be a problem-solving realm that's pretty clear. But research has shown that at least 95% actually of all our processing happens in this implicit, unconscious, or semi-conscious realm. This is actually where all the work goes on and where it happens. Oops, it got bumped off there. Hang on a minute. And so given that then, and there's no past, present are here at the same time. There's no logic. It has its own logic, but it's a completely different logic. So how do we obviously need both realms to be able to navigate and survive. So how do we do this given that they're completely different? Well, we do it through our feeling sense. Our palpable felt sense is where our conscious and unconscious, implicit, explicit meets. And just like, you know, in Europe, you have like 2 different countries that speak different languages. You have these border towns that live, that are right at the edge there between the two. The border towns speak both languages. And so does the felt sense. And the common language that connects these and allows them to dialogue and interact, a poetic, unusual language, metaphor, images, movement, and memory, actually. These avenues, this is the language that connects the two. So, okay, I've got another graphic to share with you. So what we're doing in focusing, what these clients who were doing, who could kind of keep company, they weren't too close, they weren't too far, they could keep company. What these clients are doing is they're doing this zigzag. And some of you may be familiar with this in the kind of work you do already. So they were talking about their situation or issue in their conscious, explicit self with all the kind of what they know already. They were laying it out in all its kind of strands. Then they're going to this like fuzzy felt zone and they're waiting. They're slowing down. And as they sense into this kind of fuzzy, palpable area, they're finding the right words, images, and metaphors. Yeah. When they do that, what they're doing is they're symbolizing what is coming from the underneath, from that 95%. And the amazing thing is, it comes already processed as a package. There's a little package just waiting here if you can keep attention. And if you symbolize it, this little package will lift out. As you symbolize it, it comes into your conscious awareness. And this amazing implicit intricacy from the underneath comes, and there'll be a shift. Some shifts are little, some shifts are big. There'll be this shift and there'll be an aha, a realization. It'll have a sense of flow and newness and aliveness. That's how you know something from the felt sense is coming. So these shifts that come, and as I say, some are really small, some are just finding the right symbolization or the right image. There's a little bit of give, and you know when you're finding the right words and images, you can feel it in your body. There's a little bit of a yes or a give or a relief there. And as I say, some of the shifts are little and some are big, just like developmental shifts. The process of change is in these little shifts, this zigzag. So then something new comes, that, oh, there's a little, oh, and then you go back to check in the moment at that fuzzy zone. You symbolize again, and another little packet comes, oh, How you have it up here shifts, and then you go back down. And the thing is with these shifts is why they produce change is not only because you're accessing this kind of vast intelligence that you really are, but it shifts all levels of yourself. You're not just shifting your thinking or changing how you feel about something. It's a coherent shift. Your being shifts, just as I say, just like developmental steps. And this is why it produces this concrete change. So it's this incredible process. I mean, it really is. It's such. On one level, it's so simple. And on another level, as I say, it's this whole world that you can enter into and learn various kinds of skills to work with it. So just before I say a little bit more about that, I just want to say that this is something Jean said, look, I didn't invent focusing. This is something we all do. We do it very naturally. We just don't realize. You know, but it's a way of knowing the steps and the process so that you can do it consciously. You can do it both with yourself and with your clients consciously. It doesn't just come willy-nilly. You know, when you have a conversation or you have a session with a client and it really just, the sense of aliveness and connectivity and flow that comes, well, focusing is happening there. So this is a way of learning it so that you can do that at particular important, potent points in sessions. So times, I just want to give you a sense of a felt sense. A felt sense could be, you know, when you leave your house and you know you've forgotten something. Your mind doesn't know you've forgotten it, but your body does it. You know how you have that kind of uneasy feeling? It's like, oh, something's not right. There's a dis-ease in your body. And then you think, oh, is it my pocketbook? No. Is it my wallet? No. And again, you're not asking, you're kind of asking your mind, but you're kind of asking your body. And then it's, what is that? And it's like, oh, it's my travel card. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, that's what it is. And even though the news is bad news, it brings a sense of relief because you've got it. It's like, oh, that's what it is. And it's the same thing when we're dealing with our issues. Even if something that's coming up we're not that keen on, the naming it, oh, that's what it is. That's where I'm getting stuck. It brings this shift. Another example could be, you know, you're out in the street. Not many of us are out in the street at the moment, but you're out in the street and you see somebody and they look familiar, but you don't actually remember who they are or where you met them, but your body knows whether to smile or to dodge behind something. Like your mind doesn't know, but your body knows. So it's that kind of, it's in the direction of intuition. It has intuition in it, but it's more of this kind of bodily felt sense. Okay, so I'm just going to share another little graphic with you. So Jean decided, okay, well, if some people don't do this, then how can we teach them to do it? And if some people do it, how can we teach them to do it more consciously? There are many focusing moves and steps, but these are the basic ones. So it's laying out your issue, talking about your issue, laying out the various kinds of aspects and strands that you're up against. And then it's like pausing. It's like going to your felt sense or helping your client go to their felt sense. And then it's a slowing down and a pausing, and it's like a listening to the body. And as you pause and wait there, a felt sense will emerge. And then it's helping yourself or your client to symbolize that. What are the qualities there? Where in your body do you feel that? Is it in your chest, or it's just your throat and your chest and your belly where these felt senses come? You know, is it more in your chest? Is it more in your belly? Does an image come there? What kind of sad is that? Is it a deep sad? Is it a soulful sad? What kind of, really trying to dimensionalize it. And these are called handles. The words and images and metaphors that come are called handles. So we find these handles and then we resonate those back with the body. Because even if a handle's right one moment, sometimes things shift and it shifts into something else. So you're constantly resonating with the body. Does that fit? And you know if it fits because you get this little, yes. Yeah. And then that brings a little shift. Asking into and shift questions isn't something we'll be doing today, but there's a whole lot you can do here. And then you're receiving that shift and then doing the zigzag again. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a little video of Jean. So Jean sadly passed away a few years, but was a real genius, just a real genius, and won many, 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 many awards. And I think from various associations, but I think he was the first recipient of the Psychological Association's Distinguished Professional Psychologist of the Year Award for his work. So I just want to show you a little video here. It should be here. It's just a few minutes. Okay, where is Jean? There he is. All right. Okay, guys. If you can't hear it, you should be able to just kind of wave at me. Okay, here we go. And I want to, let me just check something. Okay.
Responses, and focusing is a dialogue between this and the body. It's a dialogue. We have to keep, and it's just very much deeper and easier if you have somebody there. So we partner people now from the start. The second mystery about it is that the body is not at all what they teach us in school about the body. The body is something completely different. The person and the body are one system together. The person suffuses the body, every part of the body. People who know a lot about feet and the sole of the feet tell you that you can tell everything about a person from the sole of the feet. Experts on any part of the body can see a great deal from your walk, from your posture, from any of your organs. The gynecologist knows how you're doing in therapy. Really, checked out many times. Every part of the body is actually suffused, I say, because any link here. Every part of the body is in some way involved in living. And we're coming to understand that more and more and more, but you might as well take the jump and say the body is not at all a physiological machine. That's only the part of it that our science gets the best. The body and the person are all one. And the body has its own take on what's going on, and it's a more subtle take. The body is more intricate, the way it understands the situation. You would just think you're sitting here and you know why you came and so on, but if I sent you in there on the body level, you would get a much more interesting, much more intricate, much more complex take on why you came, or any other thing I would ask you about. So where does one find this bodily take on the situation? In some situations you already experienced it, because in some situations it comes up and it calls. But it's a little bit difficult to get to the body part, because we're so accustomed when it calls to pay attention to the emotionality, to what we call the feelings, to, it scares me, it makes me mad, or it makes me happy even, or whatever. And the body level that focusing is from is a little deeper than that. So you sort of have to walk by the familiar feelings. It's like it's in the same direction, but further down. So you say, yes, I know I'm scared. Yes, I realize I feel this way. Yes, this is my old depression. If I want to get depressed, I could. Yes, all those things that are all familiar. And you walk on by all that stuff. And you ask yourself whether you are comfortable at the bottom there in the pit of your stomach, sort of. And typically, if you're working on a problem, you already know you're not comfortable, but all the same, it's where you are broadly uncomfortable when you have a problem. That's where it starts. And that happens to be a place that if you are easily in touch with it, you're taught to pass it by. It feels like, oh, well, that's just something. That's just indigestion, or that's just confusion, or that's just discomfort, but I can manage. Well, right there, where it seems very unpromising, when you get there, you're going to say, this is this great mysterious entrance to all this stuff. If it's not familiar to you, you're going to say, this is nothing. Especially if you're a very sophisticated, developed person, you're up here, you can say all these fantastic things about yourself, and down further, you're familiar with some complex feelings, and now I want you to go one more step and stand in front of this bah. So at first, if it's new to you, you might not believe that this is where we're talking about, but it is. That's where we're talking about, where in spite of all the things you know, all you can really do there is say, you know, how does it feel? Well, not exactly, nor, But does it feel nice and comfortable? Well, let me see. I mean, up here, I know I'm not nice and comfortable, but if I go down there, I mean, am I now nice and comfortable? Well, I think I'm all right. I'm doing fine, but on the other hand, I have to manage this whole scene, so I can't be too comfortable. So I'm talking from my head. I'm telling you, I know myself. I'm probably, you know, never mind that. Let's go down and see. It doesn't take very long. Well, it's not bad down there, but it's going and it's got several things. It's sort of like the present moment here, don't talk too long, it says, but then it has little strings going to other things that aren't quite resolved, and we'll look at those later. But it likes the fact that I came, see? That was okay.
That's just a little taste of June. Yeah. So guys, before, yes, I mean, before I say a little bit how it may be useful for coaching and to give you a chance to ask some questions, I just thought I'd take us through an experiential together. So you can see if you can get a sense of this place for yourself. And just as a little note, I'm going to take you through like a guided meditation, kind of, it's an imagining exercise. Focusing isn't guided meditation, but I'm just using that as a vehicle to help you get a felt sense. Like normally what we do is we'd work and you'd lay out an issue or check in with how you are now. But the exercise I'm going to do with you tends to kind of give us a more obvious felt sense. So that's what I'm using it for. So just take a moment, maybe it's only just going to be a few minutes. So just taking a moment to settle in, just getting comfortable in your chair, just kind of really finding a place of ease there. And just turning your attention inwards, and whether that's closing your eyes or looking down. And just letting your awareness come into your throat and your chest and your belly. And just noticing the rhythm of the body is slower. The rhythm of your body and the rhythm, your feeling rhythm is slower than your everyday thinking. And just as you're keeping company there, noticing your breath in the moment and the weight of your body on the chair. Maybe just thinking of an activity that you really like, something that you do or an object that you really, really love, you really, really like. And if a couple of things come there, just seeing as you keep them company, if one can come forward. So just noticing how it is to keep company with this something or this activity that you really adore. Just kind of notice, how's your breathing there? What kind of distance feels right between you and it? Do you want it close or to the side, or just checking that, what feels right? And as you notice it and take it in, how is that in your feeling sense? Throat and chest and belly. What are the qualities of your experience there? And again, they may be kind of vague at the start, just like it's like having ears in your belly. You're really listening and sensing in there. And also noticing if something's coming, where in your body is that? Is it all over or more in one place or another? So just finding, is there a word or words, a phrase that come with what you're experiencing there? And if something comes, just say it inside and see how that lands, how that resonates. And now seeing if there's an image, and there may not be, we're just kind of tapping there. Does an image come? And if an image comes, again, resonating that back with that place and seeing if that's just right. Maybe now just checking for a metaphor. Now let's just check for a movement or a posture or a gesture. Just seeing, again, there may not be, but just seeing, does something come there? Again, resonating that back. And now you've symbolized those, just seeing how that is now in your feeling sense of being with this thing that you love. And now just for a moment saying goodbye, asking that lovely something just to leave the room. We'll connect with it again soon, but just thanking it, ask it to leave the room. Notice how it feels as it leaves. And now just inviting something in. It's a something or an activity that you're not that keen on. It doesn't have to be your worst thing, just something you don't like very much. Just allow that to come into the room. Just notice how you're feeling there and your feeling sense as it comes in. Again, how's your breathing? Just noticing the right distance. How far away do you need this something to be? What feels kind of okay, so you can still feel it, but it's not too strong and it's not too imperceptible. Again, just noticing in your body, in your core, how is that? What's the experience there of keeping company with this? Where do you feel it in your body? What are the qualities? Is there a tightness or a heaviness or a numbness or a flow of energy? Just kind of noticing. Is there an emotional quality? As you're noticing the qualities there, just seeing if words come again, words or phrases, anything that comes, resonating that back with your body. Seeing if an image comes for your experience. Just tapping it there for a metaphor, seeing if a metaphor, or maybe even a movement, gesture or posture. Again, just seeing, feeling and listening there. Maybe even a memory pops in. Okay, so letting this thing leave the room, let this thing you don't like very much, just asking it to leave the room and watching it go. And noticing how it feels as it leaves. And now just freshly inviting that thing or activity that you love, inviting that back into the room. Again, just noticing how it is for that to be in your presence again. Breathing, feeling of your body, the experience of that. Just really noticing the difference. And then, just in your own time, just coming back to the room. So maybe we could just have a couple of shares there. Did something come up for you guys? Did it feel kind of different? And if you want to share, just put your hand up. Oh, great. Harry, could you unmute yourself?
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi. So it felt like the thing I loved, being able to connect into that, felt like an open and kind of a sad space, but open, sad as in it's a memory of that is very tender inside of me. But open, like I felt like a freedom of inside. And then the thing that I didn't like, I didn't even identify it as what it was, but I just tapped into that space, and it felt like something that zoomed. You mentioned the belly, heart, and throat, and it felt like something that as soon as I became aware of it, it zoomed up. It was like a tension that overtook and came up.
Wow.
And so, a space of like open, tender-hearted to this zoom that went up and stood at my throat. And the image I got was like this X at my throat.
Wow. Wow,
Yeah.
so different. Wow. So the first, as you say, is like open, tender-hearted.
Yes.
That's really what came. And the other, just kind of like this zooming quality.
Yes.
This tension zoomed up with this kind of like no entry, this X.
Yeah.
Right, they're so distinct.
And very, after the zoom, just sitting in it and being far enough away that I can hold it, I still feel like everything is kind of harder and colder inside of me.
So very distinct. And see, the qualities are so distinct: hard, cold, tense. Even not knowing quite what it is, it's already showing itself.
Yeah.
And the graphic of the X at your throat too. The felt sense is always, because this is a doorway to the felt sense. We haven't quite gone in there yet. We're just on the edge of going in and opening it. It's always very particular. So like the X, the particular zooming quality, that's very unique to this particular something, whatever it is coming up, right? And that open-hearted tender feels like it has an atmosphere and an experience that's very unique to that memory.
Yeah.
Like if we symbolize that further, I'm sure a lot more would come.
Yeah.
Right? Lot more of particularities. So these are both doorways. And if we spent more time with each one and opened them, a whole lot would come about each one. And a lot of it would be surprising. That's the wonderful thing about the felt sense, is it's stuff you don't know already. Or even if you know it, you don't know it like this.
Wow.
And as it comes, as I say, it opens and it shifts, and realizations about whatever that thing is, either one, come. And they come in a very holistic way.
And they're doorways.
And they're doorways, focusing on the doorway.
Okay, that's helpful. Like I can remember that.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Harry, for sharing that. I think we have time for one more share if anyone's feeling brave. Oh yes, Mary.
Yes. You surprised me so much by this, and in the second part of asking us to bring up something, a memory or something that we weren't quite keen on, that it took me by such surprise that, okay, I felt something come up through my legs, but I was so distracted by the surprise that I wasn't able to hold it very easily. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make sense. So there's a something, you just got a hint of it coming up through your legs.
Yeah, I know, and I got the memory, and I got the all the visual and the feeling through my legs that was coming up. That was quite unpleasant because the memory happened to be about skiing, so it was not surprising that it was coming up through my legs. But then I thought, I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. I was just experiencing this surprise distracted me.
And I'm just curious with the skiing incident. I guess that was it a surprise?
Was it a surprise that it came up? Yes.
Was it right? And I can imagine, was the incident itself, was it like an accident or a surprise?
It wasn't an accident. It was the whole experience of learning to ski that was highly unpleasant.
Oh, wow. Right. Gosh. Yes. So again, you know, that maybe if I'd given you a little heads up that was coming, it wouldn't have been quite such a surprise to be in your.
I don't know. Maybe it was just simply like a rejection of that whole piece, that it could have been that as well.
Right. And so again, you know, if we had spent more time with that, like you and I spent more time with that, a whole thing, like a whole complete experience, and how that affects you today, and how that maybe affects your experience of learning and learning particular things, how that is relevant today would very likely come up, because when memories come up like that, particularly when you're working on an issue and you're opening up the felt sense and a memory pops in, you're connecting with something that happened in the past that's relevant now.
Yeah.
And is affecting how you're trying to move forward in something now we're not aware of it. Like a whole chaining of memories and experiences can come up. So coaching, like when you're trying to coach somebody, there will most likely be chaining with past experiences. And it doesn't, right, sorry, Mary, go on.
No. So if we were working in a coaching relationship then, and that did happen, then you would, if I understand correctly, guide me toward finding its usefulness?
Yes, we'd open it up further. We'd open it up further in its relevance to today. So it's not like doing a big therapy archaeological dig, but often when we're stuck, there are relevances from the past in there, not always. And you can go in there, open them up, and the energy gets to shift. Connections are made, in the shift that we're talking about, the energy shifts, the understanding increases. And that's also how we can shift through blocks that we seem baffled by. Like we're so baffled by ourselves.
That's so true, yeah.
You know, we have that little tip up here has all these ideas and agendas of what it wants us to do and what's good for us.
Yeah.
But the 95%'s got a whole other thing going on that makes sense to it. But because we haven't got this dialogue going, it feels like what is that? You know,
that's very helpful what you just said. That's exceedingly helpful.
Yes.
That explanation.
Yes, and Jean always used to say, let's hear from the opposition. You know, and he would talk about like the feeling sense that comes from the underneath as the one in there. That was just a way he spoke about it. This dimension.
May I also ask if in that very short clip that you shared with us of him, which was brilliant and very helpful also, I noticed he never used the word mind. Is that something that he avoided, or is it just in that short clip that's the language he was choosing?
Yes, that's interesting you asked that question, because I don't think it may have been something he consciously didn't use, because he would refer to things as implicit and explicit.
Okay.
He didn't even like conscious and unconscious. He didn't use those terms. I think it's because, like, especially when he was doing a lot of his research, there was a lot of psychoanalysis that talked about conscious and unconscious, and it thought of the unconscious as this place where stuff gets stored. It's almost like you've got things that are unconscious. And the way he holds it is that we're part of this implicit intricacy, this web. It's a fluid web that's always changing and shifting,
Yeah.
And what's just under the surface, he would talk about one interaction, that we're one interaction with everything. And so in this one interaction, in that 95%, we're in one interaction with our culture, with our past relationships, with our mentors. All the experiences we've had are in this kind of fluid mesh, and depending on what we're trying to work on in that little tip, something will come from there. Because you know, as I said, research has shown that 95% of our the processing under the iceberg,
Mm-hmm.
it happens millions of times more data and millions of times faster than our conscious selves. And because it's this kind of fluid experience, it's putting together bits of data and information that our conscious minds wouldn't dream of in a million years. So it's vastly creative, yeah, and it's doing this all the time. So so that's why he liked implicit rather than conscious, and explicit rather than consciousness, or I can imagine mind.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Can I ask one more thing?
Yes.
Are there clients in your experience who actually resist this kind of work, who taking this sort of deep dive?
Good question. Yes. So so focusing is all about trying to slow down, reflect back these, and help clients find handles. Also, one of the most useful things about focusing is you're doing it yourself. If you learn the process yourself, you can feel the client and what's going on between you and your own feeling sense, and use that as a guide. And in fact, that is the most useful thing to come out of focusing, is you're keeping track of the session. You can feel in your own in your own feeling sense of where the energy spots are, where the stuck places are, and go in and quite precisely work at that. A client may say a whole load of really interesting stuff, but that's not where the energy is. It's in that funny little thing they said there, and you can feel it. So it's very effective to have that as your guide. But with clients, so you can use this in regular conversation. That you can use this as a way, the way you reflect back, the pacing of a conversation, the way you ask questions, the way you invite, you're inviting and evoking what's coming from the underneath. You can do it in a regular conversation.
In a regular conversation, you mean in social situations?
In sessions.
In sessions.
I mean, you can
Okay,
do it
just checking. Just checking.
You can, you know, I mean, I've had people train with me who are not in the field of therapy or coaching. They just want it for their work. That they want it to deepen and enrich in their own life, and they just want to learn how to navigate work better.
Very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. And so one last thing I'll say there is, when you're coaching, so focusing is guiding your own experience and knowing where to help move the energy forward. Jean always said, implicit in every human experience is a positive life forward movement. No matter how dysfunctional it seems on the surface, there is a life forward movement trying to happen. And if you go to the feeling sense and start to keep it company in this kind of open way, it will start to move in the way it will reveal itself. And I can tell you, in like 20-25 years of using it, it's so reliable. You know, it's something you can really deeply trust. So that's one thing. It will help you in every way, and particularly when clients are blocked, to go to that one in there underneath who has another agenda, that the place in the client that's baffled, that sets themselves goals that can't move forward. Focusing is the way to go to that implicit and find out what that is. What part of them has a different agenda? What part of them is feeling unheard, is feeling burnt out, is saying, hey, you've got some other steps to do before you get to that. Because remember, it's holding that implicit is holding the whole of a situation in a way that our conscious minds can't. I could go on and on and on, but I know we're coming to the end. Maybe, Rod, have we got time for one more question, or do we need to start?
Yeah, well, I'll leave that up to you, Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe one more question, given that we got to you late. Oh,
Hi, Charlotte.
hi, Lisa.
Hi. I just had a question. I've done, some experimenting with focusing with clients, and I've used Jenlyn's initial question of, kind of how's my life going right now? It hasn't been a very helpful question, because most of the people that I've used this with, they tend to react to that question in a really negative way, because their life is really a struggle. Is there another way of saying that I've also tried the reverse, where everything's going, great in my life right now, and that's even gone worse. So is there another way of asking that in a less loaded kind of presentation to them?
Yeah. So there are a number of things you can do there. One is, I don't know if this is the question that you're talking about. What stands between me and feeling all okay right now? That's one way. Another one is, what needs my attention right now? How am I right now? Let's just go in and ask, what needs my attention right now? How am I right now? But asking in a very kind of curious, open way in the moment. Another is just to ask the client what they want to work on, and ask them if they can. You can, as I say, you can learn to do this in a conversation, but if you want to do it in this more of a practice, because focusing is both a practice where you go inside. It's almost like a spiritual practice, and you often do it in partnership. It can be a guiding, which it sounds like maybe the kind of thing you're talking about, where you help them go inside and you guide them, or it can be a conversation. It's all the same kind of basic steps that I took you through, in varying degrees of complexity in all of those. But if you do it kind of in a stroke guiding way, ask them to lay out one problem that they want to talk about. Like, say a little bit about it, where they're getting stuck, what they've done about it so far, what they'd like to achieve. And then just ask them to pause a moment, and let's just sense inside there. But what's also helpful is, as they're telling you the story, to reflect back the handles. Jean used to call them fire engine words, because they had like a red light on top pointing to them all. So those are usually the feeling words. Sad or disappointed or frustrated, imagistic as well, obviously. So you'll reflect, as they're telling you, you're reflecting back, you're highlighting some of those fire engine words, and then you're asking them, okay, and then you reflect back some of those keywords. Okay, so with that whole thing, blah, blah, that whole thing that I'm trying to increase my physical health. You're trying to eat better, you're trying to sleep better, you're trying to work out every morning. And with that, so you're kind of reflecting back the key elements. There's a frustration. There's a like a heavy inside. And there's an angry at yourself. So again, you're highlighting. Okay, let's just stop a moment. What comes here when I say that? Angry, frustrated, heavy in yourself. What comes here in the moment? And they might just say, well, what do you mean? And say, well, just like, is there a tight, or is there a numb? Like, what's that like? So you start to open it up. And they might say, oh, well, it's like a stone in my heart. Or there's a stone right here. Oh, so there's a stone right here. What kind of stone is that? Is it a jagged one or a shiny one? What's there? What's the feeling of it? Oh, it's sad. Oh, it's like a shiny, sad stone right there in your heart. Gosh, how is that? Is that familiar? When are the other times you felt it? Now, because once you start to open it, the world of it starts to open without people even realizing. Was there another time you felt this? Let's just see, there's a memory come here. Usually a memory comes. So already it's starting to lift out. And there's lots and lots of questions. What's the worst of that? What does that need? You don't ask the what does it need question until you've really got it established, because otherwise people go in their head. What would be a next step here? What does it need? Let's not think about this. Let it just come from the inside. Could even be not a practical thing, but a way of being with it. What comes there? What's it like from its perspective? If we go and be it, how does it feel about this? And then you circle it back to the original issue. A whole lot comes and you'll say, okay, so all that stuff that came, that memory, that sad, how does that now relate to what you brought in the beginning about you not being able to get up in the morning to exercise or eat properly? And it'll go bing, 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 bing. It will just automatically, because realizations start to come. You don't have to think about it too much. You don't have to work at it too much. It opens and it starts to make all the associations. The felt sense is where the new comes from. It's at the edge of our regular thinking. We already have so many ideas and concepts and labels for ourselves and labels for how we are in things, and they haven't got us anywhere. Or they're coming to you because they're stuck. Yeah. I remember a spiritual teacher called Ram Dass talked about how our regular thinking, when we're thinking, it's like moving the furniture around in a room. We already know what it is, and we can make various, we can put the bed over there or the table over there. But for the new to come, it has to be from the felt sense. You have to touch in there in some shape or form for the new to come. And as I say, it will have this feeling of newness, of clicking inside, of surprise. It's always surprising.
That was so helpful. Yes, thank you. Yeah, that makes it a lot easier to figure out how to utilize it in a session.
Great, glad. Okay, guys, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Charlotte. It's been just fantastic to spend this time together. And of course, I'd be delighted that if you would come and join us. We're beginning next Tuesday on May the 5th. At noon. We'll have a 2-hour class beginning from then. And if you'd like to just learn more, or you'd like to register with us, then please, I put the email address just down in the chat. It's admissions@humanpotentialinstitute.com. And we'd be absolutely delighted to have you come and play with us and learn this incredible skill to upregulate your coaching. Yeah, so thank you, Charlotte. Thank you, everybody. And look forward to catching you hopefully next week. Thank you.
Lovely. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.